Day in the life of a real estate transaction coordinator. What does that look like? Let's talk about it. But before we do that, welcome back to Transaction Care. My name is Lillian Hernandez, but you can call me Lily. And we discuss all things transaction coordination, but not limited to real estate, business, mindset, and all that good stuff in between, because this is more than real estate. This is real life, okay? And we're putting a lot of care in the name Transaction Care in this episode, because I want to give it to you guys upfront, honest, real, and truly give you an inside look on my life and my experience as a real estate transaction coordinator, because many of you are seeking change in your life. You're pivoting careers. You're coming to me for coaching and other coaches within the industry, asking for questions, help, answers. You want answers, you want clarity. And first and foremost, that clarity often comes from taking action. You can ask the most expert of experts in real estate, from top producers to people that have been in this game for 20 plus years, but it all comes down to you just taking action. And that's how I got here. So first and foremost, I've been working in the real estate industry since 2004, having numerous jobs and positions within the real estate industry here in San Francisco, California. So first and foremost, I am based in the Bay Area, born and raised in San Francisco, California. And that's the primary market that I service as a TC. That is the primary market that I have worked in throughout my entire career, and the surrounding cities within the Bay Area. I've dipped and dabbled a little bit in Southern California, Northern California, if you consider Sacramento and above, the true Northern California. But what I'm getting at is, throughout my career, I've stuck to one primary state and location. Have I been curious about other states? Yes, absolutely. But I never quite took that leap or felt compelled to go in that direction. Another question I frequently get asked is, do I also sell real estate? The answer is no. I've done open houses to just expand my knowledge, as well as get me out of my comfort zone, because I can be very much an introvert. But once I'm put in a position to be extroverted, I feel like I do fairly well. But being a realtor and that 24/7 life, although some TCs do work the 24/7 life as well, but that's just not what I consider my calling or something that I value. I do value work ethic. I do value and am grateful to have work and opportunities, and to now have been running my business for 8+ years. But I've learned that on the other side of that, I highly, highly value quality time, quality life, family time, friends time, chill down, peace of mind, relaxed time. And I'm already on, in my mind, 24/7. So if you add the constant aspect of work, it just doesn't work for me. It does work for other people, and more power to them, and more power to those that do set boundaries. Or not to say that working 24/7 isn't setting a boundary, because that's what you've established. That's a practice that you've enabled in your business. So much respect to everyone. So for me, I've always run my business typically within the 9 to 5 hours, but it doesn't mean I ever really stopped working from 9 to 5. Have I found myself working late hours? Yes. Have I found myself knowing the job of a transaction coordinator, but not knowing anything about how to run a business? Absolutely. I feel like coming into my 8th year as of today in 2026, I feel like I'm just getting started. Truly. I don't feel like, as crazy as it sounds, I don't feel like I'm that experienced yet. I quit my job in 2018, officially. This month, actually. February 2018. So it officially marks 8 years. And when I made that decision, full transparency, it wasn't entirely to be a transaction coordinator, to be a self-employed transaction coordinator. That's just how everything aligned in my favor. To be honest, my goals at that time were to be a caretaker for my grandmother and my mother, who was, they were both going through some health battles, which thank God, it all worked out. I was able to be with my grandma for the last year of her life, and my mom was able to recover from her health scare. So it taught me a lot about devoting my life to work, devoting my energy just to work, which is why I err on the side of, yeah, I'm going to work 9 to 5. That is a day in the life I want to embody and honor. But like I said, have I worked 16-hour days, 20-hour days? Yes, absolutely. Especially in the beginning, first couple of years where I was the busiest. And when I say busiest, because a lot of you have asked me, like, what is busy? Like, what is the busiest or most files you've had in 1 month? And I'm going to give you a number, but I want you to understand that this is in total. And these are ongoing numbers. This isn't what I closed in a month. But at one point, the first couple of years, so I would say from 2018 to about 2010.
2020, guys. 2020, not 2010.
Was a high peak in my business before I truly burnt out. Then the pandemic hit. We'll get into that. But around that time, I think I was managing anywhere from, on the low end, maybe on the low end, 30 to 50 transactions mixed of listings and sales. Then on the higher end, it was anywhere from 50 to close to 100 at once, alone, no assistance, no understanding. I've never done that number or that scale of business ever. Not even when I worked at an office for a company that was constantly churning them out. The most we had ever gotten at that office was maybe 40 a month, but consistently it was around 10 or 20, not including listings. So you get what I'm saying? So when I decided to do this as a solopreneur and really take it serious as a business, not only am I having to manage all of these different people, because the business wasn't coming from just one realtor or 5 realtors. I was managing teams, top producing teams here in the Bay Area. And each team a month was closing anywhere from 5 to 10 and listing anywhere from 5 to 10 listings a month. So it was a lot. It was too much for one person with little to no business experience, let alone discipline experience, because I'd never been self-employed. I'd always worked a 9 to 5. I was also taking care of my grandmother. I was also trying to do content on the side because I figured this was a prime opportunity to document the life of me quitting my 9 to 5 into the unknown. And all of it kind of just piled up, and it became too much for me, to the point where I couldn't handle it. And I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know how to hire help because I had no business experience outside of studying it in college, outside of selling candy in high school to my classmates, outside of going into establishments and doing transactions. I had never run a business myself. So the transition was very difficult. Now looking back at it, did I survive? Yes. Was it the most money I'd ever made in my life? Yes. Will I ever get to that point again doing transactions? Honestly, I can, but I don't want to. I really don't. I'm at a point now where transaction coordination has taken a back seat. Although it is something that I've known the majority of my life, I've come to a place in my life where I want to try different things, experimenting. Even though I'm a lot older compared to who I was in 2018, not just in age, but in mindset and how I view the world and how I view work, and my mission, my values have all changed, my morals. Well, my morals have been pretty even keel the whole time. I try not to stray too far away from my values and my morals. I think using that as my gauge of how I want to navigate my life has been important. But I also know that during that season of abundance, if you will, financially, it was great, but I wasn't good with managing my money. I ended up letting go of a lot of business. I also lost a lot of clients because I wasn't managing my time well. And what I was left with, it ended up being the people that ultimately it just later fizzled out because my views had changed about work. And I think many of us that are watching this video, and tell me if you can relate in the comments, please. And make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already hit subscribe. We're almost at 2,000, or we might be at 2,000 by the time you watch this video. I still remember sitting in my office in 2018, I think, when I started this channel, or 2021, I forget. But what I'm getting at is I remember when I first started this, wanting to give back to my community. And that's what I'm talking about here in terms of wanting to do other things and experimenting and trying. But for the most part, I reached a point where I was done with transaction coordination and wanted to turn the tables and give back. And I knew if I was going to accomplish something to that effect, I had to ask for help. So not only did I lose a lot of clients, not only did a lot of the relationships, business relationships fizzle out, but the teams that I did end up keeping kept me afloat through the pandemic, which many of us endured. And some of us didn't make it out, and some of us are still here and doing the same things that we set out to do. And if you're someone that's in the process of pivoting or finally shedding those layers of there has to be more, or I'm ready for a change, or I've been doing this job for 10, 15, 20, 30 years and I'm ready to do something different, and you're seeking out a career in real estate, I get it. But I also want to be honest with you. I'm giving you guys a summary of my day in the life because I want to be very clear with you all that real estate isn't for everyone. If you're wanting to come into real estate, here's the distinction. If you're wanting or needing to come into real estate to make money and that is your only focus, I think it's going to happen, but internally, it's not going to satisfy you. Maybe for the moment. So I don't want this to be like a discouraging word. I still want it to be a word of encouragement, but I want you to understand that when I was making the most money, and everyone's journeys are different. Everyone's journeys are different because I get it. When you have nothing and you accumulate a lot of money all at once, you're like, whoa, I'm on top of the world. Yeah, let's buy this, let's buy that. But if your mind and your heart aren't aligned with said work as well, you're going to still feel like you're dragging your feet into work all day, every day, even if you're working from home like myself or anywhere in the world. And it's not to say that you won't have bad days even when you enjoy the work you're doing or you have a love for the work you're doing. It's more so you have to have a stronger reason why you're doing anything that is remotely related to your goals, your dreams, your values, your mission statement. So get clear with all of that stuff. Like sit down and actually write it down and then check in on that list frequently. So when it comes to a day in the life of a transaction coordinator, I'm constantly checking in with myself. That's why I do a lot of mindset content. I had a comment recently saying, basically stick to transaction coordination. And it fired me up to the point where I almost got offended. And I took it to heart, like I took it personally. But I had to really just step back and say, okay, this channel isn't all about me. I'm using my journey, my experiences, and the questions that you all bring to me to make content, to give you all an inside look into what this world is like. But once you're in it, I think that's when you really realize it is all about the mindset. Because if you really focus on learning the job, not being afraid to start from the bottom, maybe not making as much as you had anticipated at first, or not making any money in the beginning, you realize what I'm trying to say is it really opens you up and it puts a mirror in front of your face and it forces you to look at yourself. Entrepreneurship, solopreneurship, it doesn't matter. It's going to expose you. And if you're not ready to be exposed and you think a job or a new business is going to replace all those feelings of pain and hurt that you've been enduring this whole time, it's not. It's just going to be another job or another failed business that crumbles beneath you. And believe me, in these 8 years of running a business solo, I've had assistants, I've had to let go of business, I've been fired, I've been hired, I've hired a coach to help me. That's actually what inspired me to become a coach to real estate professionals and others around the world. And that's a new business that I'm actively pursuing now, as well as content creation, right? You guys see me on a weekly basis, sometimes daily if you're watching my shorts. But what I'm getting at is you have to be committed. And in the 8 years that I've been self-employed, I've had things crumble beneath me. And there were moments where I was just not sure how I was going to bounce back. I made the most money I've ever made in my life. I've also made the least money I've ever made in my life. I had a month during the pandemic, it was around 2021, where I only made $250. Pause for reflection. So if I told you, if you want to be a transaction coordinator and you're only going to make $250 a month, would you still do it? Honestly, I'm pretty sure your first instinct would be like, heck no. No, let me go try something else. So maybe those inklings or your intuition is something you should be honoring in this moment, which is why I say real estate isn't for everyone. Because if you're coming in to just collect the check, do it. But have a backup plan that feeds you, that feeds your spirit, that speaks and aligns to your personality, your skills, your talents, what your capacity is nowadays. Not just forcing a job because you think that's the right decision, but mostly if you're in your later years, maybe you're closing out your 30s, entering your 40s. I'm in my early 40s. These are transitional periods in our life and seasons of our life that are important. And I look at the past 2 decades of my adulthood, and now, God willing, the next 2, 4, 6 decades ahead. And I want to take everything I learned from my past and create and build a job for myself that maybe in the beginning I'm willing to sacrifice some pay, which means I'm going to become more educated about my money, about finances, about my money wounds, my internal wounds that are limiting mindsets. And I'm going to work on that stuff. So going back to day in the life of a real estate transaction coordinator, that's a part of my daily life, is the self-work, the self-reflection, self-care. Am I exercising? Am I eating for energy and not just pleasure? Am I going on vacation? Am I taking time off? Am I surrounding myself with people whose time I enjoy and who enjoy my time as well? Is it reciprocated? Am I being a good listener? Not just to my clients because they're paying me, but to everyone in my life. And this is ongoing work. I don't touch my emails, the laptop, nothing until I complete my morning routine. And I've been pretty disciplined with it for at least close to 2 years now, to where I do my best to not skip a day. For sure 1 year, one solid year. The year before that, I can remember the days I skipped my morning routine. And to be honest, they were the worst days of that year for me and for everyone around me, whether it was my fault or not. It just worked. I just felt crappy going into those days because I didn't start off grounded. I didn't slow down. I just rushed into the day. And when you're constantly rushing into a quote unquote fire, when do you give yourself time to replenish, to re-energize? So a lot of the work I do outside of the files is on me, is on building the relationships, legit just sitting with my niece and watching her play and playing kinetic sand with her, or playing dolls, or playing catch, or playing video games with my nephew, even though I have no idea what I'm doing, and then just him demolishing me in the games. But to me, that is a quality of life. And I will choose that over any file or dollar amount any day, even if it means I have to financially suffer for a little bit. But I know I can always dive into that work double time after they're asleep or something. And none of this journey has been linear. None of this journey has been all ups and all 5-figure months. No, like I haven't had a 5-figure month in a few years. I'll be honest with you. I've just been making enough to satisfy and make sure the bills are paid and feed my savings, because there was a year in 2024, I had just turned 40. I was turning 40. I turned 40. I was 40. And in that entire year, I'm the type of person that likes to do like a reset, a cleanse before every birthday, especially when it's a milestone birthday like 40. And everything shifted in that year for me, and I called it my retirement year. And my day in the life back then was, I have enough money in my savings. I have a few credit cards I can live off of. I do not recommend this at all. But I will say, although money doesn't buy happiness, it can temporarily buy you some peace of mind. As long as you're actively working on a new plan, like give yourself time to take a break, take a vacation, take some time off, sleep in, do what you got to do. But I lived in that retirement mindset without creating a new plan for me moving forward. So when I came into 2025, I felt like I was scraping and clawing my way back to the surface, not even like the top of the surface, but just to the surface. And I felt like I was just treading water, which was exhausting in itself, instead of just like standing firm in where I was and where I was going. I was a bit lost, but I had a vision that was a bit accelerated due to the fact that I had spent my savings and I had maxed out those credit cards. And this is just full transparency. This hasn't been a financially rich journey, but it has been a rich journey to where I make sure I give time to my family. I make sure to give time to my friends. I make sure to give time to myself. Coming into my 40s, I realized I hadn't really gotten to know myself. I hadn't really gotten to give the things that bring me joy life. I had always accommodated everyone in my friend group to, what do you guys want to do? Because I would be happy anyway, because I just like to be around you guys. When in turn, it ended up being years of me sacrificing what I enjoy. So when it came to me standing up to what it is that I want to do or what I want to enjoy, I was often met with resistance or straight up no, which left me having to do things by myself. And being self-employed, I'm alone already throughout the day. I'm in my house alone right now recording this. And getting to know myself, I realized maybe these aren't the people I want to be hanging around with, regardless of longevity, regardless of commonalities or similarities. It's like, who am I becoming? And does it involve these people? Does it involve this job? So if you're in transition right now, some of the big changes and shifts might be that heavy to where you have to just break away or spend less time or with certain people or with certain habits or the way you spend things. I did a lot of deep work on my money habits this past weekend. So now fast forward a bit to present time, because I knew coming into 2026, I built myself back up in 2025 after that year of retirement in 2024, right? Because I needed to. First and foremost, I needed to. But I also realized that being a transaction coordinator has always just been my starting point. But because I wasn't prepared mentally or emotionally, nor did I have the real experience of breaking away from things, which is why I brought up the whole friendship example, was because there were moments prior to when those friendships dissipated that I knew I should have done it sooner, but I got scared. I started making up stories like, it's not that bad, I'll just distance myself and maybe that'll recharge me to make me feel better about it. But outside of quitting my 9 to 5, even that, I gave it a soft landing. So I hadn't ever really broken away from something to the point where it was a crash landing almost to that effect. And I had to have that real coming to Jesus talk with myself, and even through prayers, through journaling, through reflection, and a lot of stillness and quiet time. I really wish that for a lot of us, the ability to be still, to be at peace with our own thoughts, even when they're racing, to find quiet, even in the chaos. I think that's what's fueled my longevity in this industry, not just from the 9 to 5 world, but being independent, especially through markets that are like this. And there's no guarantee, much like a 9 to 5, there's no guarantee when, of our next check. And delays happen, inspections are required, repairs are required, and often push back that one check that you were really relying on for that moment. And it forces you to really dig deep within yourself, like, well, why didn't I, why am I living paycheck to paycheck now? Or why am I still at this job or running this business if I'm just dragging my feet into it every day? Do I need a vacation? Will that solve it? Or do I really need to walk away and start over? I know that sounds scary. And we've kind of gone in different directions with this conversation, because day in the life of real estate transaction coordinator, you were probably expecting me to talk about files and things of that nature. I will, don't get me wrong. I will definitely break down the inner workings of a file. You can actually go back to a lot of my videos and watch me talk about those things, but I want to talk about it from a 2026 perspective. And now with the infusion of AI, or maybe the takeover of AI, and how that will impact the real estate industry, I do want to have those conversations. But I thought it was important to give you all an insight into the day in the life of a real estate transaction coordinator, and how it really is mind over matter a lot of the times. So if you're in the position of wanting to come into this industry, chasing the dollar, chasing money, or chasing a better you, it's not always going to come from a job. It's not always going to come from a paycheck. It's not always going to come from starting a business. It will extract and pull things out of... I just pressed play on a song. Scared the heck out of me. I'm leaving that in here. I think that was my cue to wrap things up here, but stick around. I do want to give you guys more conversations about real estate transactions, the day in the life of the inner workings of that. But I also want to make sure that if you've watched this and feel like, dang, well, what am I going to do now if transaction coordination isn't an option? Don't worry. I'm still willing to help and coach you through this. Visit my website, transactioncare.com. And if you do have questions about my journey, if you want more specifics, if you want more intel as to how I've navigated this throughout the past 8 years, leave a comment. You can also email me directly. More than willing to answer your questions. I highly do encourage you schedule a one-on-one discovery call with me, because that's the best way that you will not just speak with me directly and get your questions answered, but really get to know yourself. I've realized, and a lot of commonalities that a lot of clients I just talk with on the free discovery call, is it's not necessarily a new job that they're searching for, but it's like a new version of themselves that they just haven't been able to tap into because they feel blocked, they feel stuck. And the reason I shared my day in the life of real estate transaction coordinator from that perspective is because in those moments where I felt the most stuck or the most confused is when I learned the most about myself, because I took those risks. I took action. I sought out help. I read the books. I watched the videos. But I didn't just sit on that information. I took action. So where can you take action today? And if you're watching this and you still want to pursue the career, if you still want to pursue a career in real estate, first, action you want to take. What is it? Let me know in the comments if you're still unsure, or even if you are sure. Schedule a discovery call with me. I'd love to game plan with you, set up some strategic steps and systems to implement to align yourself with what you're trying to do in this next season of your life. And it's okay to start things and fail at it, or not be good at it, or be too slow at it. Because again, you take that information, then you apply it to the next thing. Or you take that information and then level up in whatever it is you are already doing, okay? That's what has sustained me throughout these 8+ years. And like I said, God willing, the next 8, 16, 24, etc., etc., etc. But it's getting to know myself. Because the files, it's not rocket science. It really isn't. Once you do a couple, you stay organized, you have the right systems, you have the right programs, you have the right coach on your side. You will do well. Like I said, real estate is not rocket science. It's just making sure you choose the job that aligns with you, but at this time in your life, okay? So reach out to me, visit my website, transactioncare.com. That's step 1. Step 2, hit that subscribe button. Step 3, leave a comment, because I want to know who you are. I want to interact, engage with you all. And I'm going to leave you all with that. So I hope you made it to the end of this video. It's about 30 minutes plus long. I value your time, but I'm also very grateful that if you did watch it to the end, much respect. I appreciate you, and I hope this video brings you value and opened your eyes to more opportunities within the real estate space, but mostly within you. Don't abandon the skills, the knowledge, the talents that you already possess. Take all of that information and build the life that you desire for yourself, that you dream, that you yearn for, that you cry about, that you scream about, that you laugh about, that you imagine. Because it's possible. You just have to be willing to show up, put in that work, roll up your sleeves, get a little dirty, but it's possible. And I want to be in your corner while this is happening. So thank you for watching. My name is Lillian Hernandez, but you can call me Lily. And this is Transaction Care. Follow, subscribe, comment, and let's connect one-on-one. More vlogs to come. If you have questions or videos you want to see, topics, drop them in the comments. And until the next video, care for yourself, care for your wealth. Your time is worth it. Let's coordinate. Talk soon.